And we are green. That means it's another episode of Red Star Roundtable. And I have to say, I am super excited about this episode. But before we get to the topic and stuff, we're going to introduce our host today. Of course, as always, the resident Red Star Gaming Antonio Banderas impersonator. No, not you guys, me, Mike Carbajal. And why don't you guys introduce yourselves to the population at large?
All right. Well, it's me, David. I'm one of the avid tournament players here in San Antonio.
That's right.
Not necessarily the best, but definitely ranked the highest last year.
Yeah, that's right. One of my favorite things about David is hearing your name come up when I'm listening to podcasts about competitive, and I'm like, I know that guy.
Well, speaking of that, Pablo Martinez from Chapter Tactics is coming to Alamo GT.
Oh, there you go. Cool. And then what we still have there's the Alamo GT logo. I love that logo. And of course our other host, my brother from another mother.
Resident redneck in San Antonio, Will.
Will, this time you didn't braid the beard, unfortunately.
No, I've been too busy working today, but so we talked about last time I'm moving, so I've been moving boxes and unloading U-Hauls all day, and then ran back to the old house so we can film this. But it'll be fun. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show. Before we get started with the particular topic, as always, we talk about our hobby projects. We're getting back into tournament season, which usually the latest and greatest buys to help put your list over the top. Things are going to be bought off the shelf, quickly put together, slap some paint on them, make sure that they're got a base on them so you can get those tasty 10 extra points. David, did you get any new gear for either Alamo or Dallas if you're going?
As far as models?
Yeah, models. Yeah.
Well, I definitely will be there because I'm running it, right?
Right.
As the head judge and TO. But the main thing I've gotten is the sheer amount of terrain. Another $1,000 was purchased of buildings after buildings. So, but different styles, but all themed after the Alamo.
Right, dude. I've seen the terrain. Looks
we got
awesome.
our own themed terrain.
That's right. The themed, and it looks dope.
Yeah. The terrain has different keywords now, unlike a previous edition. So, we had a bunch of leftover buildings that were essentially all ruins. Like, well, let's diversify where we can. So we brought in some ruined walls, and then barricades, little tiny Alamos. We're actually going to give one out to everybody who attends. They get a little Alamo barricade to take with them.
That's awesome.
I think that's a cool idea, man.
That should be out of the code. There should be an entry point for everybody's codex. You know, they have those placeables. It's just like the Alamo. Free rerolls and free stratagems within 6 inches. What about you? Go ahead, bro.
So what is it, like a defenders automatically set to defend?
Right, that's right. Defenders automatically get overrun.
I will not make any jokes about the Alamo.
You can't. Me and David can. You'll be on the fast track to getting canceled, but me and David are all legit. We're good.
Well, the funny thing is, like the rules, you can set to defend or you can choose to overwatch. It's like, no, you don't get to overwatch. You
that's true. Only set to defend.
It's like, don't take, don't hold defense at the Alamo. Go somewhere else. You can't hold it. No, we're staying, damn it. We're staying.
I've been up to my ears in, I am started doing some commission work, finally. And I've learned that there's 2 worlds to that. There's the putting crap together world of commissioning, and then there's the painting world with stuff that's already put together. I am a fast painter. The armies that I've had in the past are orcs and Astra Mill, so I know a thing or two about factory painting. Pants, boots. So I can whip out painting stuff, but man, putting stuff together has taken twice as long. I would think that it would be faster. That is just not the way it's gone. It's just so monotonous. Clip. And then I started doing, like I had multiple Indomitus things. So I would take one eliminator, clip, and I would take all the multiple, because I have multiple of the same sprue. So I would do this one, not eliminator, the melted Eradicator, thank you. One Eradicator, and then I would clip that one guy out on all the sprues and then shave, file, and so that way it's all done. So all the sprues are getting done at the same time. all the chaplains, all the chaplain, shave everything off, put it all together. Taking me forever, but I finally did it, and it's like they're all put together and they're ready for the customer to pick up, and it's just like this glorious moment when it's all done.
I do some commission building, not painting, not really, but the building, I'll knock that out for people, and mainly just keeps my hand occupied while I'm listening to books and stuff. But yeah, generally same method, same piece, all the pieces, and until you realize GW like got the directions wrong, it's not part 22, it's part 24. Damn it!
I've done that on multiple occasions. What about you, Will? Oh, you know what? You have not had idle hands because you're doing the moving.
No, because of the move, I did get one purchase in. I was fortunate enough to get a copy of the Cursed City. It's not going to be $40K, but I am looking forward to building that and getting to play it. I think it's cool. I think it's a poor substitute for Mordheim, but the models are cool, and I think it'll be fun to play.
Now,
is it a board game? Or?
Yeah, that was where I was going with this. Is it a single session, or is it like multiple sessions?
I haven't opened it up. I'm assuming it's going to be like Blackstone Fortress, and it's a quasi-campaign thing. As Mike and I was talking before the thing, I was going to do an unboxing thing, but my internet hadn't got turned on at the new house, so I had to run back over here, which means I didn't get to do the unboxing. So I haven't even got to open it up and look at it. I'll try to hopefully film that after we're done here. But I think it's going to be a quasi-campaign thing that because the way they market it is that there are certain heroes that you meet throughout the game, and there's no way that all of those can be in one thing. So it has to be a sessional, this is the mission that you're going to play today or, next time. So I think that'll be cool. But I am, after today's video on the community page, just like, because they announced Bellicor is going to be coming.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh yeah, that thing looks dope. Is he like pre-order next week type announcement?
I'm assuming. I didn't actually get to read it. I just saw the video. I was waiting for the U-Haul lady so I could turn the truck in. So I saw the video pop up. I watched it real quick, but I didn't get to read the article. But usually when they do the This Week in Warhammer, that's what it means, that it's going to be coming up for pre-order. So I assumed. And now the way they changed the detachments, I don't know that I'll be taking demons with my death card anymore. So I may just throw all the demons together and run them as their own army, and then buy Bellicor just to. I think it's a piece model that'll just look good on the table and be like, all right, lead all my demon factions.
Right. Which is because you got to have that one piece that's like this is. It doesn't matter if this is, and from the rules preview that they did of him, he looked dope as hell. Where there was like he could take down a Land Raider, which is funny as if somebody takes a Land Raider, but
Land Raiders are super good. But from the way I played, I think they're super good. I don't know if they are in tournaments, but I don't go to tournaments anymore. But I think he'll be good. But like I agree. I try to always have like a centerpiece model, so that's why I like take Mortarion. I take Scabiathrax with my Nurgle demons, just because I think his model is just super cool. It's not super great, but I like having that one big standout model. And I tend to when I finally do get around to painting, I put a little extra time, a little extra effort into that one model and let them be my centerpiece.
I don't get to do that. I have to change up my army to work with the meta. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to set these guys aside and start using these guys. So, all that work.
I think that's a perfect segue to get to talking about what we're going to be talking about tonight, because we're talking about lists, and where I tend to have a bit of a stagnant list by the way I play. But, I think you hit the nail on the head, David, that when you make your list, you kind of constantly have to change with every new codex that comes out and what the current meta is. And so walk us through that. Give us a little bit of an idea what your thought process is when you make a list to get ready to go to your tournaments.
Well, the first things first is, like, you got to know what the points of the game is, right? So a 2,000 point game is very different from a 1,000 point game. But after that, I think I try to look at terrain if I know it in advance, but that doesn't change too much for some armies. They have limited models they can take anyways. Like Harlequins, where are you going to take bikes, clown cars, and Harlequins? There's not too much options there. For me, though, the first thing I look at is the size of the points and then erratas to make sure the points didn't change or the rules for my units didn't change. Because that sometimes the rules just make things borderline unplayable, whether it's the points are too high or the rules just got nerfed. And don't get me wrong, things do need to be nerfed. Here's your 8 wound model that you can bring back for free every turn.
Right. And they fixed that, right?
They
The
did.
go kart.
The go kart got nerfed pretty hard, and I think maybe a little too hard. Maybe they could have said like, yes, you do have to spend the command point on this, but I think the worst part about it is you got that nerf on top of the fact that they're not core, so they don't get rerolls like all the other bikes.
Oh.
But there is a way. I figured that out earlier this week. It's like, wait a minute, boom, I can get rerolls to all those hits.
Now, do you you're playing the salamanders, right?
Yeah, I've been doing salamanders for a while. Lately, I've been doing scions and salamanders, but I generally play Imperium in general.
Right.
And I try to be ready to face everybody, but there's some armies like, okay, I'm just gonna lose to Harlequins. Hopefully, someone else can beat them.
So as you play like with the ebb and flow of the meta and stuff like that, because you're in the competitive circuit, by now is your salamanders army do you pretty much have the physical models of every data sheet because things have come in, have come out? I mean, or you're not, because you're at this point now, you're not chasing it where like I got to go and buy this model. You're like, I already have those.
The biggest one that comes out is a lot of the new Primera stuff I haven't picked up right away. And then, so as of right now, the only Primaris unit I don't have is the new land speeder that they have, the giant chunky land speeder. That's the only one I don't have.
Is that out yet? Is that out?
It's out.
Okay.
But the problem, and the heavy intercessors. So
you didn't want to buy the Kill Team box to get that.
And I play Kill Team. Don't get me wrong. I love Kill Team.
Well, that's not a Kill Team box, but
yeah. I just don't.
That's
think...
a different show.
Yeah. They kind of killed my mojo there.
Yeah.
There's some things there.
I've always thought that was like I'm an obsessive. It's almost as though like I don't know why I keep growing my army because it's so big that I'm like I can't possibly field all of my Lehman Russes, and I'm like mistakes were made. You know what I mean? Like even in a 2,000 point, I'm like for that hypothetical apocalypse game that we're all gonna play, that I can bring everything, which I've never done, but. And now I have, with the exception, I don't have any Valkyries, which I need to pick up, but I have most everything on the data sheet, and I don't have Death Strike. But I feel like I can like whatever ebb and flows like Astra Mill, if they were ever to be, if I've ever jumped in the competitive pool, that I have it built, painted, and assembled. And I know that you've been in the game for a minute, and I was like, this guy's got to be able to, like, okay, so these are out, you're back on the shelf, and you get put in the foam case.
Yeah, back and forth. And then I'm in the middle of a move. So the other day, it was a tournament day. I ended up going to storage, going through 15 other boxes because out of 17 boxes, it's going to be in the last 2 where I find the model I'm looking for. Trying to just rush into the store. Like, okay, well, what can I take out of these 2 bags of stuff I have? So I did okay. Came second, but yeah, it's just... I took the same list against the Dark Eldar, and I got slapped down hard. It's like, that's what you get for being inefficient.
Right.
They seem like they're a real strong codex this time around.
It looks like you have to play a perfect game against them, because they can take don't get me wrong, like they're not tough. You can kill all of their things, but they're cheap enough that they have more things. So
I've heard it explained that what ends up happening is I forget the name of this phenomenon or whatever. When a model when this unit kills your unit, but that unit that killed it is hella cheaper, and they have that in droves. Up. Yeah. Okay. There you go. So they have that a lot. Yeah. Trade up.
Very well. And don't get me wrong. Every army has something that can be borderline ridiculous. You're mentioning Bellicor, like how tough he is. Okay, well, the measure is, can he kill a knight in melee? And a lot of things can. I had a 70-point character, the chapter champion, Blade of Triumph. He's a salamander. he runs into a knight and does 27 wounds.
Yeah,
in melee.
last time you were on our show, we talked about that.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I mean,
it's like it's doable. That's a hell of a trade up because that knight's 400 something points. Their 70-point character can run through anything. I can't figure out what it can't kill.
right.
So, maybe Mortarion. You know, when it's reduced damage by 1 and in bowl and 5 up, still don't pay.
Do you find that? I mean, and this is an obvious question, but you win and lose at the table, but you start to win at the list building stage. Are you? Is that not true?
It can be. So beforehand, guard were like, okay, I'm gonna give up 15 points because of the vehicles I'm gonna take.
Right.
I'm gonna give up 15 points because I'm gonna take so many characters, and I'm gonna give up another 15 points because I'm gonna have to take all these infantry troops. So you knew how rough it was gonna be just in your list building. But you could stop and think, well, but how am I going to get points? How am I going to build my list to take my secondaries? Like recon, it's like, okay, well, a company command squad or a weapons team is power level 1, so 3 weapons team go in reserve for 1 CP, and then when they start coming out, they're going to start grabbing these different table quarters for me. Like you plan that in into your army.
So I'm not so like big into right now like the 9th edition and like the aspect of winning when it comes to that. I know that you have to hold points because it was kind of like from when Kill Team had hold more or hold 1, hold more, and then and get points that way. And then I remember being so. I mean, I could test a will how many counseling sessions that we've had with. I feel bad because I'm in like this toughness 3 realm where my guys don't hold points. You know what I mean? So if I were doing this list item, if I were submitting questions for you, those would be the things that would be on my mind. I'm sure we have. I think James has asked, is it too late to submit a list for doctoring? And then I know King Apex, who is with Andy, 3 of my favorite guys. What's up, nerds? What up, bro?
So James, if you want to private message me the list, we can talk about it right now.
Yeah. If you guys have a list, just either send it out, or if you have any questions to help you with your list. Will and I come from a beer hammer, and Will from a really narrative. We can create fluffy lists that'll knock your socks off. And I was like, we can't do this topic if we don't have like somebody who like knows how to play Warhammer 40K. We got to get David on the show. So David will be here to give you that aspect to really tweak it. And if we don't know something specific about your particular faction, we'll do the best that we can. Or also, if you have Kill Team rosters, I've played plenty. Dave's won some tournaments with Kill Team and stuff like that. Or any Marvel Crisis Protocol. I'm happy to talk Marvel Crisis Protocol all day, every day.
I was just told that was more of a skirmish game. It's not the brick of dice you're throwing for 40K.
No, it is a skirmish game. Are you talking about 40? Are you talking about Kill Team?
Skirmish.
Yeah, or just Marvel.
About Crisis Protocol being a skirmish game.
Yeah, it is.
Like 5 models the most.
Yeah,
even in Kill Team, you can probably put 20 models out. So.
Yeah, some factions can. But the thing about Crisis Protocol, just a quick digression, is that it is the maximum amount of threat, quote unquote, points that you can put right now is 20 points, and like some of your best characters, like your favorite characters, are in the 4s and 5s. So you're not. It's tough to get like a real list of like your favorite heavy hitters. Like you're gonna be taking your Captain America, who's a 4, your Thor, who's a 5, and then I'm like, shit, I need some Jamokes. And it's like, Hawkeye, come with me. You know what I mean? And it's not gonna be the movies, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna be like a couple badasses and some jabronis.
All right, so James sent me a list. I'm not gonna read everything, but looks like we got Rabute in the Supreme. We got a battalion for Ultramarines. Let's see, Chief Librarian Tigerius with the power Psychic Scourge, Psychic Fortress, Primaris Chaplain on bike with Master of Sanctity, Litany of Hate, Hero of the Chapter Wise Orator, Troops, Heavy Intercessor Squad with Heavy Bolters, 9 9 heavy intercessors. Oh, that's the same squad. Sorry. Infiltrator squad 8. Infiltrator squad. Elites. We got a Primaris chaplain. Victrix honor guard. Then we got 1, 2, 3 Invader ATVs with multi-meltas and a Eradicator squad with the melta rifles ×5. And that comes out to 99 power level, 13 CP, 1,991 points.
Are the Eradicators heavy Eradicators?
What's that?
Are the Eradicators heavy Eradicators?
They are, it says Eradicator squad, 14 power, 270 points, melta rifle, 5 Eradicators, bolt, no, they're not.
Okay. Well, see, Ultramarines have that whole thing where they can move and shoot without penalty. Rounds 2 and 3 for their heavy. Like it's they don't take that penalty for moving with heavy weapons. So that's a very good unit to just go ahead and make heavy.
So stupid. I'm sorry. I can't help myself. They can.
Well, think about it. That Eradicator squad. Never mind that it's shooting twice. Just that 5-man squad. Right. It comes out from reserve. It looks at whatever it wants to look at. And if it's coming from reserve, there's no reason it's not within 12 inches unless you might intercept them. All right. All these things that we hit is +4 damage. What aren't you not killing?
I know.
Well, then you got the multi-meltas on the Invader ATVs ×3, which is nothing to laugh about neither.
So no, and is who sent that, James? Is there like a question, or does he want us to? What's the? I guess what are you looking to do? Is this a good?
He's asking for tweaks.
Oh, tweaks.
Well, the first thing that came to mind as you read the list was his squad sizes, like 8 infiltrators. I don't see the point of that. If you're going to take more than 5, you might as well just go to 10. Well, of course, points being always an issue, but realistically, I would just do a 5-man squad with the Helix because they can sit there and take a hit.
Right, and then they can do their job. Yeah.
In the squad, but it's not 5-man.
Yeah, and then, well, you're right. So if he went down to 5-man, that's points to make those Eradicators heavy. And all I did with my Eradicators is I drilled in a speaker wire to connect the backpack to the weapon to make it a heavy melta. That's all the difference is there's a wire connecting the melta rifle to the backpack. So
James, you can consider changing it. So there's
sorry, he does have it's a battle scribe copy and paste, so it's a little disjointed. I apologize, but he does have an infiltrator squad that's 8, but he has a second infiltrator squad with the Helix Gauntlet that is technically 5, so including the sergeant. So he does have the squad like you're talking about.
So he could go down. Take 2 squads of the infiltrators with Helix on. And then those 3 extra models, which is 66 points because they're 22 points each. Kick them out. You throw those points right into that. Right into those Eradicators. The one worry I have about his list, though, is actually volume of fire. I would probably change those multi-meltas on the Invaders into the Onslaught. Because, once again, Gilliman is one of the few things that just gives reroll 1s out.
Right.
So,
he says, can I use different squad sizes, particularly in the Eradicators, to get different unit to have more tools?
To have more what?
More tools at his disposal. Like, say, if he went down in a couple points, would he be able to fit in something else that would benefit his list? Or my only concern, and again, I haven't played competitive in a while, but just looking at it, that's a lot of melta shots. And so, if you're going up against the tank heavy army, like
exactly.
Mike's tank command, you're going to be good, or against probably even like a night list, but. What if you was to go against Orcs or Tyranids or something like that? It might be a bit rough.
It seems, and David, so this is a question for you based off of James's list. It seems as he's the all-star of the show is going to be his Eradicator list, right? So my question is, if that Eradicator list goes down because it's big, scary, turn 1 or turn 2, whenever it comes in, is his list up Schitt's Creek? Like, is there backup, like, from what you're hearing of that list, can it still function if that unit is knocked out?
I would think so, because he does have the other multi-meltas. But by the time it gets knocked out, Gilliman's walking into what he needs to kill as well. Especially if he's putting it in reserve. The reason why is he's got those. It sounds like he's got the Storm Shield guys that are bodyguard for
the Victrix.
The two Calgar.
So you pretty much you hide those guys near enough to a character, and they're like, okay, you can't shoot this character at all. So the characters had to have 9 or less wounds, which Gilliman has 9 or less wounds. So he'll be safe there, but it just makes perfect sense to reserve that 5-man squad. One other thing I was thinking though is if he the 66 points from losing the 3 infiltrators and the 15 points going down to heavy onslaughts versus multi-meltas on his attack bikes at 81 points. You could look at taking a 6-man or 2 3-man squads of the Eradicators. The only reason you would want a 6-man is so you could have 2 multi-meltas in one squad. So you have the volume of fire, and you just combat squad them, and then you come out from reserve. Now that depends on the judge. Unfortunately, the rules for combat squads, they didn't write the rules to work with the missions. So essentially, you combat squad in step 11, but going in reserves and transports happen in step 10. So like, oops.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was a dumb mistake, and GW even wrote an example of how to do combat squads, but they deleted the example. So how are we supposed to know as judges what to do? Essentially, just do it step 10.
Well, and I think, and maybe you disagree here, David, but I think one of the other things that he has here that's really good is that he has the chaplain on bike that he can either use with the ATVs or the Eradicators, because there's so many of those doggone litanies these days that you can be giving buffs to everybody and just dishing it out, and he's fast enough to move around.
Well, that's actually not quite right. Unfortunately, the Invader ATVs don't have the core keyword.
Yeah.
And all the chaplain's prayers pretty much say core unit gets this, character gets that.
Oh.
So the +1 to hit, it will work very well if, let's say he moves the bike close to an edge, in comes the Eradicators, and he says, you know what? I'm an emergency pray. Wise Orator lets him do it for 1 CP. Boom. You're +1 to hit.
Jesus.
So now
hitting
you
on
have the
twos,
Eradicators
wounded on
twos,
two. Yeah. Jeez.
Rerolling 1s to hit.
Yeah.
So.
I know.
Mean.
You guys are gonna make me throw my freaking head into this window with all this Space Marine buffs and all the things. No, I know that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm being facetious.
And that's why I'm thinking he should go to a 6-man, because in the end of the day, the 5-man destroys what it wants to shoot at just fine. Like, unless you're going after Mortarion, you don't really need 3 versus 5, because you're shooting 6 versus 10, right? So if you went to a 6-man or 2 3-man, he has an option to kill 2 of your tanks in one go. It's like, hey, your tank commander, it's dead. Your other tank commander, it's dead. Did you still want to play this game? Here's more multi-meltas. Your next tank is dead.
Robert Steele or Staley asks, how many sister squads is good for 2K?
Are we talking like Battle Sisters?
That's what I'm assuming. The troop, yeah.
Well, you need 3 for that battalion, so there's a good start.
So at least that many.
At least that many. You could get away with the patrol, but the tools aren't there.
I would look at a brigade in without much trouble when their heroes are super cheap.
Yeah. The issue is like you want to take so many of the good things for like the heavy supports and the fast attacks.
Exactly.
So those suck up a lot of points because you kind of want to be the larger squads for what they can do. I would say 3 to 5.
But now 5, you get that $100 junior HQ, the one that's their little lieutenant. If you want to pay out the nose for it, you can get them real cheap. Well, points wise in the game, but not monetarily.
Well, they made a mistake on her list. Currently, she's listed as 0 points.
There you go.
0-point character.
Well, it means she can only be played outside of match play because she does have power, but she doesn't have points. So Aaron asked real quick before we get too far away from him and kind of dump that out of our minds. He said, "Is there a better choice for litanies than recitation of focus and cataclysm of fire?" I don't know what those do, so you're gonna have to.
Okay, so recitation of focus is a core unit within 6 inches gets +1 to hit. and Cataclysm of Fires gets +1 to wound.
Okay.
Well, it depends how you're building your list. So if you're building your list, I like to deep strike my Brayarth Ashmantle, a named Salamander Dreadnought in a drop pod. And over, I failed that charge. But I can move my Bike Chaplain up, Emergency Prey, is it Canticle Hate? And it's a +2 to charge roll. So he comes out 9 inches away, but now he's looking at a 7-inch charge. How you build your list. If you build a Terminator Chaplain, and he's coming down with a squad of Terminators, why not? Or Vanguard Veterans, say, okay, Emergency Prey, here's the +2 to our charge. So you got some options there.
So for those that's out there that's listening that have never met David is a reason for about half of the FAQs that come out. Him specifically, not like he does the things that other people do, but they're like, fuck you, David. Stop your shenanigans. FAQ.
You know, it's funny.
Yes.
I'm sitting here just listening to him, and I'm like, Jesus, David's going to, like playing. David, you're the sweetest. You're a nice man. And I like it. I really do. But like this guy on the table, he's just wants to kick your nuts in. My God. I get that's your competitive world, and that's a competitive world. But I'm listening over here as a narrative and beer and chips guy, and it's like just going through James's army and then your advice on it, and I'm like, holy crap.
The difference in us and David is that you and I play on occasion for fun. David plays to tweak his list. He will play a list a dozen times, change out 10 points, and then keep playing that same list over and over and over again to, go so far as to perfect his list. So when he does go to these tournaments, it gives him the best advantage. And I've known David for a long time. He scours all the codexes, all the FAQs, memorizes the doggone points. I've seen David at tournaments go, your stuff's not legal because you have too many points. You're out of here. Go
David, do you buy the codexes even if they're not your army?
I did beforehand, mainly because I just wanted to know. So fortunately, I work with Knights, so I get to look at the codexes that way. But
that's Knights of the Game Table on Amazon and Facebook for those that you can catch David on their shows.
So I get to look that way. It's harder to memorize stuff because it changes way more often than it used to.
Yeah.
And it's probably for the best for balance reasons, but it does screw you over for like the first month or so after, like, oh wait, that's not actually the points.
But can you really feel bad if it's your fault it changed?
No, I can't, I guess. You know what? They changed it because of you. What was it? Flying Monkey GT. Like a week later, the router came out. You cannot use the stratagem this way, essentially. It's like, it's not a fact thing. We're actually changing the rule itself because David was right. We didn't want David to be right. So.
All right, so David, let me ask you this, because we were talking about how often you play your list. And so when you go to a tournament and you come up with an idea for your list, how much do you play that list?
Good question.
Perfect it? I mean, I'm being facetious when I say how many times you're playing it, but I do know you play, every chance you get. But how many games does it take to perfect your list for a particular tournament? Say you're going to Alamo and you want to perfect it. How many games does it take?
5 to 10 games. Realistically, granted, if you're playing the same person over and over, no. But within 5 to 10 games, if you're looking at small changes you can make, 10, 20 points at a time, a unit here or there, maybe. But I think 5 to 10 games is going to... The one thing a lot of people have is it's not that they're a bad player. They just don't know how to play their army. So sometimes you just got to... You buckle down and it can get tedious. Like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Your opponent has other plans.
Well, I know that back when I was in those circles, you and I used to play quite a bit, and you would be like, hey, I changed this. I want to play against your X army. So I want to play against your Knights. I want to play against your Tyranids to see how this would work in the tournament. And so I did get some experience in that. But me, I was like, here's my list. I'll see y'all guys next week.
I got a follow-up question is, you playing somebody like me doesn't going to help you. Do you have a crew of other like-minded people that know their stuff to get practice in?
Well, there's a few. One of the Alamo GT sponsors, like everybody's gonna get some dice, is from Banff, the gaming club. So they're competitive minded. You get to play some games against them. There's not too much the guard can show me, but it does surprise me like how well it works when you see it all together. And then luckily we have another competitive club here in town, the Frag Out Gaming guys. So that's why I got to get slapped around by Nick Gower and getting to see what are those guys? Necrons from Dino. It's like, all right, what's the terrible pain they're gonna do here? There was a change Necrons recently where those death marks, they're snipers that come out of reserves to follow you. Unfortunately, the rules still say that you can't come from reserve turn 1 unless you're a drop pod. So it's like, oops, here I come down with all my drop pods. You can't really do anything about it. So getting to see it in effect, like, okay, so unfortunately he had to see that at a tournament of in Houston versus seeing it at a local, like let's get some Friday night gaming in. So they're very competitive minded. And then during the last 2019, I was saying last year, but 2020 was such a long year. Right?
I do that all the time. It's like I did this thing a year ago, and it's like, no, you have to add a year to that. It's 2 years.
Add a year to that. So 2019, like I would go to a tournament every single weekend. That's at least 3 games there, and play 3 games as well. So, or more in a week. So you're looking at 5 games a week. So whoever wants to play, you can learn something. But recently, if I'm playing someone like you, I'm thinking it's more of a teaching game.
Right.
Your options.
Yeah.
Like why?
No. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Self-intended.
Yeah, I get it. No, but I mean, I started the question is obviously if me and David throw dice, there's no illusion that this is helping David practice for the tournament, and there's no illusion that like I am gonna bring a list that would be like that. It would be because David's a cool guy and we just want to just hang out and shoot the shit and throw some dice together. That was my point, is that he has people that he can play that share a similar mindset and that look at the game the same way to prepare him, because, Beer and Pretzels Warhammer isn't preparing him to win, some of that sweet cash prizes.
Well, I won the Beer Hammer Championship in Arkansas. So I do like my beer and pretzels, but mostly just the beer part.
James has got a question. It says, are the archetypical lists that you run? I'm sorry. Are the archetypical...
I think what he's asking is, are there certain set lists that you try to play against so you are able to figure out where your list is lacking? Or would it be like something like based on the meta? So you want to be like, well, right now, Ultramarines is the new hotness, and now I need to play them to make sure that I'm tweaking my list. Or right now, not in a non-facetious way, Dark Eldar. So are you playing them more often now to see where
I just got my first game against the new Dark Eldar, and it was rough. And don't get me wrong, I made mistakes and I had a bad list, but it was a rough game. I think I can ask folks like, hey, Will, can you bring out your White Scars? And White Scars is a rough matchup too, because they do everything they want to do when they want to do it. They're fast enough to do it. So if I can plan for that, yeah, I think the best way is just to try to get a game in on on Friday night. If you see people there, it's like, well,
right.
You have time for another game?
Right.
So, there's one thing before I forget about the chaplain build. There's an easy way to have damage 4 chaplains with the mantra of strength, which makes them a bit of a beat stick. You have to stack warlord traits on it as well, but depends what you're trying to do, of course.
Right. And that's what when James first posed this question, I was like, well, what is he specifically trying to do? Because I always try to all my lists, and I don't play competitively, but on a non-narrative, if I'm going to take a list, I'm going to play a buddy. I'm just trying to I have no idea what he's bringing. So I try to I have a little bit of everything, a little bit of anti-tank. Obviously, I'm guard, so I need to screen my tanks. I need to be able to get some points. I need to be able to participate in the assault game because I hate that don't move and shoot stuff. I don't play that kind of guard. My guys are on your side of the table for some reason, for good or not, better or worse. So I tried being an take all comers list.
Well, a take all comers list, what you're looking to do is, can you kill 30 orcs a turn? Can you kill a knight a turn? Can you kill 3 vehicles a turn? So
that's your barometer for.
Yeah, I was thinking that seems.
Yeah, that's my barometer. The 3 vehicles, you need your dice to roll like a little well. But with the 3 vehicles, usually isn't too hard between your plasmas and meltas. The problem is your plasmas are only damage 2, so you have to have that volume of fire. And you can also, if you're fast enough to get in melee, let's see, the knight's not quite the same measure as it used to be, especially if they don't have an invul in close combat. There's some beat stick characters out there, like salamanders can have a damage 7 chaplain, so just smacking into that knight, or Adrax wounds a knight on a 2+ easily, potentially damage 8.
So let me ask you this, and not to pick on James's list, but since that was the example that was given us to us so far, when you're talking about can you kill a knight, can you kill 3 vehicles, can you kill 30 orcs? Well, I think James can very well kill 3 vehicles, very well kill a knight. But would the infiltrators and the heavy intercessors, I would be kind of hard pressed to say that if he was to go up against a boys army that list specifically would do well. And again, I'm not trying to poo-poo on his list or anything, but in that mindset, based off of what you said, I think that list might struggle against 30 Hormigons or 30 boys.
Right, and that's why I really think the heavy onslaught should be one of the easiest changes he makes, and the heavy intercessors, maybe the assault 3. And don't get me wrong, I don't actually like the assault 3, but overall it does fill that niche of here's 15 shots for Ultramarines. 15 shots, the boys come in, we're still 10 boys, but they actually don't hit that hard anymore. All right, fall back. 15 more shots. We're Ultramarines. We shoot and fall back just fine. So I think he could probably stack those in. Fortunately, if he did the rapid fire version, which is still good, their whole we count a stationary means they're always going to double tap at full range,
Right?
Just like those infiltrators and everything too. So he's got some tools there. It's just, does he have enough? And I don't think so. Not without those heavy onslaughts. That being said, those heavy onslaughts really aren't going to hurt the vehicle, but with enough shots, 24 shots from the 3 heavy onslaughts and another 18 from the twin assault auto bolt rifles, that should make it force some saves, definitely. So.
Pasta Sauce says that knights are not as heavy hitting as they was, and that he's basically saying they suck.
It really depends. I was playing Steve Shermer, I think round 5 at Clutch, and I didn't think I was going to win that game. The way he did the Warlord traits, taking granted he took Forge Roll Knights, 2 of them, but he made it so that all of his Knights had an invul in close combat. So he knew that what the weak point with a Knights was, and then one had the 4-up versus shooting, and then easily he had he could rotate to give any one of the other 2 a 4-up versus shooting. So he was ready for it.
Pasta Sauce says Knights need objectives secured at least to be somewhat competitive. Really, the issue for Knights is secondary objectives as well as reduced damage output by way of no spillover damage. I agree, but I think that's one of those things where you kind of you give a little in one area to pick up in another area.
The problem with Knights is if you're going first, your opponent's going to walk on an objective and take it from you.
Right,
that's
what
it's going to go.
And that's what I was getting ready to say. Let's say even Knights did get objective secure, or my tanks get objective secure. It's a model. It needs to be objective secure as it equals a knight equals 10 guys or whatever. Per bracket.
There are a couple of relics for that, or and the like you count as this many models. Knights have one. It's okay. I think the main thing that knights can do is as characters, like, okay, you got close to this objective, I'm going to heroically intervene to you. So you shouldn't necessarily be pure Daka. You should be Daka and melee as a knight. So you can go both routes. I'm going to kill what's getting close to that objective. I'm going to kill what actually is near that
Right,
objective.
so I can take it. Right.
Yep.
So let me ask you this: why, since we're talking about building lists, and I know you don't see this as much these days, but while we're talking about knights have a low model count. Are you seeing that, or what would your opinion be about low model count armies when you are trying to build a list? Because obviously that's something you have to take into account when you're playing knights, or even if you're trying to play more elite armies like with the heavy intercessors and stuff like that. The eradicators, if you put out damage, but you have so few of them because they're expensive, are low model counts going to struggle? And is that something you need to consider when you build your list?
Because of the low model count stuff, you're probably looking at your healers, like the selfless healer apothecary, to bring back models. It's hard to come back from those losses. If I lose my Primaris, what is it called? The Inceptors with the plasma. If I lose them, I've lost anti-tank, I've lost anti-horde, I've lost a significant 330 point part of my army.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I plan around that. Like, how do I keep this squad alive? Fortunately, I have self-sacrifice, but you could also make use of you can't see me terrain. You can make use of adding like bonuses to their saves, adding an invul. He had a psychic fortress in James' list to add an invul to some of his units.
He also had selfless healer. I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier. He also had selfless healer.
Yeah, and I figured there's no reason not to. So
with that said, so you mentioned earlier about when you're building your list, you're taking into account terrain. So obviously, like with the Dallas Open and some of these other big tournaments, they're posting what their tables look like. We've seen it. We're watching it. We're monitoring. But say you're just going to do random games. There's obviously no way to know what terrain is going to be on the table. So how are you taking that into account when you're building your list, or do you just not bother?
So the one way you could take that into account is if it's Planet Bowling Ball, did you leave enough command points to put units in reserve? Do you have units that naturally go in reserve? What other ways do you have to buff your army? Sometimes you're not too worried about it. Like, if your army can take that hit, those stupid clown cars, like Deathwing, they usually don't have a problem just standing out front.
Right, just taking it, and then they get rezzed anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they have inbuilt reserves already, so they're fine.
And they're a low model count army too, but I think they're probably, as low model count armies go, probably in a better place than a lot of other armies.
Deathwing?
Yes, specifically.
Yes. In fact, because of Deathwing and Death Guard, that's why I added in the Scions, competitively speaking, because Guard gave me more bodies, but it actually gave me enough weapons to make them take significant saves. Like, here's, take your 4-up save, take your 5-up save. So
you're going off a way to fire and hoping that eventually they fail just by virtue of having to roll dice.
Yeah. There's a way to have Guard Scions do mortal wounds. So I killed what was it, eight of those Blight Lord Terminators. So they're tough guys, but I killed all 8 in one round. It's just how you plan that fire. So
Alfredo still, he says a Warlord Titan can't take down a Deathwing Terminator squad. Goonhammer did an article on it a while back. Well, I could have told you that without the almighty Goonhammer, the Goonhammer captain of the obvious. Yeah, the Deathwing Terminator squad's taking your strength 10 and going, it's not strength 10.
And that's the problem my Salamanders had. Essentially, I easily wound with everything on a 2+.
Mm-hmm.
And I pay points
to get for the privilege
to do that, and then they just knocked off half of my shooting right there. It's like, okay, your points have been wasted.
It's the same with me. I love demolisher cannons, and it's. I mean, I might as well have shot him with a bolter. As far as the wound tables.
Did when Deathwing came out specifically because of their across the board permanent transhuman physiology, did that mess up your list? And did you have to kind of like go back to the drawing board on that one?
That's why I added in the Scions. But if I were to do pure salamanders, it comes back down to how can I get rerolls to wound. Fortunately, salamanders have that innately, but I never rolled so well to wound unless I'm going up against them. It's like all these twos. Like, damn it, that would work.
Yeah.
Well, the Death Guard's another one that I would imagine would have kind of thrown a wrench in your list. Just not specifically the Blight Lord Terminators, but of course them too. But just the new Disgusting Resilient, because your army is built to do as much damage as you can per hit. And then they're like, yeah, you spent all these points and used up your Warlord, Trust, and Relics to do 3 damage, and then now it's 2, and then now you can't insta-kill my Terminators, so kind of eat it.
I wonder what the designer's intent was, because it's one of those feel-bad mechanics for me. Like, that's a feel-bad mechanic, and I'm not of the opinion that's not healthy for the game. But in the past, at least, you got to spend some CP in a resource, and in match play, you can only do that once per round. But to have a units that can have that permanently I wonder what the thinking was behind that.
I see the thematic part of it. I see that, that resolve, I guess, for the Deathwing, and then just how resilient the other guys are. If you're your guard, when you're looking at that, it's like, okay, how would I play this as a guardsman? Throw dice, throw a bunch.
They're gonna have to. Well, yeah, that's the way. Yeah.
So like, I like the Demolisher cannon, but it's like, you know what? I'm gonna have to pay the points and instead take the Punisher cannon, because 40 shots, and then you can make it AP1.
Right,
like 40 shots at AP1. He's going to feel that little love tap. So sooner or later, they're going to cut through all those Poxwalkers, all those, eventually, if you can keep them far enough away. But you also, I guess you have to change the way you play. Like, going against Death Guard, I'm going to give up the center. I'm going to go around.
Right.
So, you said you don't like to play.
Excel is right there in the middle.
Yep. That's where they're going. So the first thing you got to do is kind of just get rid of their transports, because that's going to give them the biggest rush up the center right there. It's like, you know what? There's 2 rhinos. Those 2 rhinos need to die.
All right, so let's ask this, and this would be to Mike, to David, to anybody listening. Since we're the last few episodes we've been talking about people getting into the game, and so we spent a lot of time talking tonight about lists, going to tournaments, and things like that. But I would ask if there's a new player that is going to listen tonight or listen to this broadcast in the future, what advice would you give them as a brand new player, as a new player that maybe have never built a list before? What advice would you give them to building list?
To building list. Well, it depends. Are you building a list off the models you have or models you plan to get? So
that's the question. I mean, because we've all been new, and that's a question we get a lot in the Red Star group, is that, hey, I'm new to the game. What do I need? And so one of the big things that came up last week, which actually led to us talking about doing this episode, was somebody asking about how to build lists, and they didn't understand how detachments worked and things like that. So that's where my question is rooted. This is a new person, never built a list before. They're just starting out. What advice would you give them?
For this edition, definitely make sure you have your troops.
Yeah, that's exactly what
you have your OPSEC at least. So, I mean, granted, it doesn't have to be troops, because Deathwings have OPSEC, Ravenwing has OPSEC.
So OPSEC. So if you don't know what OPSEC is, it's objective secured, which means that if that unit is on an objective and they're contesting it with another unit that does not have objective secured, they automatically get to claim the objective, no matter if it's the biggest vehicle or the biggest squad. The unit with objective secured gets that objective.
Yeah, I would try to have that into your army. It's more of a tactical play, I guess. Like run is still this objective, or it's more of like a good base, solid base to your army. How to use your troops.
Right.
I started in late 3rd, early 4th. So troops is the core of all my armies. And so last week, Mike and I, we talked about here's our example of a list, and troops is the first thing I put in my army. I took 1 HQ and I took 3 troops, and that kind of harkens back to the old four-sword shark days where, troops had to be the backbone of your army, but I think that's especially important today with objectives secured if you want to think tactically like David is saying and make sure you're capturing those objectives. So, Mike, what advice would you give a new player?
I same as David. And we touched on this last time too, but I would definitely get 2 headquarters and get 3 troops, 4 troops, because after that you can start getting the cool toys. The thing is that the new people are going to go to the shelves. They're going to be, dude, that dreadnought looks dope. And I'm like, don't get that dreadnought yet. Get a couple of troop choices. Get 4 troop choices, and get a few HQ choices. And then from then on, your base, whatever you want. Now you can go get that badass looking robot, get that badass looking tank, and then you should be good to go. And this is just from what I'm starting. I want to start a new regiment. I buy 6 infantry off the bat. And I'm not gonna buy anything else till I have all 6 infantry for Imperial Guard.
So I agree, and I would echo the same thing. And maybe it's the dad in me that's like, all right, I'm gonna keep saying this over and over. But if you get that core of your army being the troops and the HQ, you will figure out quick where your army is lacking, and then that can influence the purchases that you add to your army moving forward.
That's right. And you'll at least have that covered. It's bought. We encourage, this is a show that encourages painted models. You're never going to get better at painting by not painting them. So just paint them up and get them on the table. And no matter how bad you think they look, when you get them all there, it's a sight to behold. I'm going to say this every show till we die. When you get to the table and you put them all there, before your opponent arrives, and you look at your collection on the table with some terrain and it's all painted, it's all worth it. The entire hobby was completely worth it.
Kind of like you said, you can't get better at painting unless you try, to paint.
Right.
You generally don't get better at the gaming until you play your games. So all the math hammer in the world doesn't work if you don't know how to use the terrain, or your opponent knows how to plan around your moves. So,
right.
And then
Alfredo offers some good advice as well. He says in the chat that keep your eye out for the combat patrol boxes, and those are the new boxes that GW's putting out. And so far, I think they've been pretty good. I don't really have any complaints.
The Drukhari one is off the damn chain.
Yeah, the Drukhari one is good.
The All-Star.
The Death Guard, Typhus being in there, it's...
Well, because if you buy 2... then it's your rate of return is got, because Typhus is in it.
It's diminishing returns at that point. Yeah. But I mean, you can always convert them. But it's a good start. So if you're looking for a purchase, because the Death Guard one specifically comes with 4 troops, an HQ, and an elite.
And they're what, 140, right?
I believe so. I believe it's 140.
Well, also don't get stuck like, I play Space Wolves. I need to buy the Space Wolf box set. Well, hold on now. Take a look at the Death Watch box set. Like, are those models more helpful to you than Reavers?
Right.
Reavers suck.
Reavers suck. Yeah.
But you want to like them, and don't get me wrong. If you want a unit, take the unit. Okay. Just don't be heartbroken when they don't do what you want to do and they die before you get a chance to see them even attempt to do it.
That's the best advice on tonight's episode. Don't take Reavers, they suck.
Alfredo said perfect. I don't know how many times he said literally the perfect Scion army builder. I bought 3, and he's talking about the Scion start collecting comes with how many 10 Scions, and then the Taurox, and then a Commissar. You buy multiple of those. Oh, that's a great box. That's a great value in there. And then exactly.
Except that Commissar has Tim Burton feet, where they're like really tiny.
That's
a big upper torso.
And he's a monopose. Like I missed the Power Fist reading the what is it? The Creed. Yeah. That was.
And it's easy to convert up that Commissar into like a Primaire Psyker, so you can have a different HQ in your army or tools.
Well, we're at 1 hour. First off, any last minutes? David, you got some tournaments that you're playing and hosting. Why don't you let us know? Shout those out.
Okay, so we got the Alamo GT coming up. That's the big one right there.
Right.
This is going to be the largest one ever. I think we are actually at 115 people signed up.
Beautiful.
On the Riverwalk at the Hyatt Regency. And because we got so many people signed up, we're like, you know what? More terrain. So more themed terrain. I'm not going to comment on the painting, but it should be painted this year because it needs to be. Unfortunately, last year that didn't happen, but we had more terrain even last year. So there's a lot of terrain, a lot of mats.
The club has been adding on that terrain exponentially over the last couple of years, and so that's what's put us behind getting that stuff done. Because I know you were building that terrain up to like the night before to try to get it all done last year.
Because we didn't know if we were going to have an event last year, and then the hall was like, "Yeah, we're open." It's like, "Oh, guess we're having it." So, that's the big one. But another one, which is potentially super major, is at the end of this month as Dallas Open.
Right.
So that's part of the Texas Championship Circuit. Same with Alamo, and then coming back was Warzone Houston. Now I haven't heard anything about War Games Con in Austin. That's up in the air. But right now you have four big events in Texas because Frontline Gaming is bringing out the Lone Star Open here in town, Dallas area. I guess it's okay. They could have used the Stars at Night Ballroom here in San Antonio. It's 54,000 square feet. Like, no, they're just going to go to Little Marriott. It's like, okay, you guys didn't recon.
Right.
So. To bring it here, we got better tacos in Dallas anyway.
Yeah.
Dallas.
Suck it, Dallas. And Austin with your artisan tacos.
We're going to get so much crap for this episode.
Don't get me wrong. The portobello mushroom taco.
Yeah, I know, but it's bougie. And I like bougie. Don't get me wrong. But you can't beat the Taqueria Jalisco number 75's tacos versus artisan tacos any day.
We just went around the corner to the taco truck. A little carne a pastor, the marinated pork tacos, minis. Like, let me get 4 of those.
Yep, that's right.
Fed the whole family.
I bet
there's a lot going on to keep you competitive here in town, and if you don't mind a little drive, there's plenty of events around the states. Wichita, Kansas is Flying Monkey Con. It's like a 9-hour drive from here. New Orleans, about 9 hours from here as well. So that's New Orleans Open. Plenty coming on.
Here in San Antonio, Heroes does their every Friday night thing. They have their monthly tournament there. So if you want to kind of cut your teeth and practice some lists, those are some good opportunities to tweak your list building to see how it's going to go.
The best part about that is you generally get 3 guaranteed games. And if someone's going to pull some shenanigans, they're going to pull something like, wow, this is stupid. It's better to see it at a little event versus to get slapped in the face at a GT. We're like, yeah, this is stupid.
Right. All right, gentlemen. Well, everybody, thank you for watching the show. Thank you for the questions and the lists and all of the activity in the chat. We appreciate it. And as always, we appreciate our awesome guest, David. You are always welcome, brother. Good luck. I know that you yourself make the travel and stuff like that. And we all wish you the best anytime that you compete, brother.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Night, guys.
All right, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out, everybody. And no matter what you list, just remember to have fun.
That's right. Good night, everyone.